for me at least, living like this is also a way of daring and learning to stand in the uncomfortable. And we're not that good at standing the uncomfortable. Many people are not, when they go out there, they feel insecure and they just want to go back into safety. And there's something about daring to go out there and stand there, and it hurts in the stomach, and it's a little bit painful, and it's scary and all of this. But that's a part of it, and that's actually very beautiful if you dare to learn to stand in that uncomfortable place.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 379. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have a wonderful conversation with Marie. Marie is from Denmark, and as you'll hear, she and her husband opened up their relationship over a decade ago, and today she walks us through their wonderful journey.
Yeah, they started by sort of exploring the world of swinging, and then a few years into that, started shifting more into polyamory and dating separately. And today, she takes us through their journey of the highs and the lows and all of the amazing things that they've experienced together, but also the reality of the challenges that they came up against. And so it's just a fantastic conversation.
Including living a lot of the time in a van.
Yeah, they spend a lot of time living in small spaces. And this past winter, they spent some time living on a houseboat. So, challenges on top of challenges.
Exactly.
So having lived in small spaces ourselves, we know.
It's not always easy on the relationship.
Marie and her husband also do incredible work. They travel around in their van going to schools and teaching sex ed. And they have a community that they've started online called Open Wise. And Marie also does coaching as well. So tons and tons of amazing work that you can find links to all of it, all the different websites in the podcast show notes over on our website at normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the podcast tab, or there's direct links in your podcast player. Please check out the work. It's amazing, especially the OpenWise community. As you hear us talk about all the time, how much we love and feel that community is important. Anytime we see people creating community spaces like this, we want to just shout them out. So please check out OpenWise and check out all of Marie and her husband's work.
For anyone who is a premium subscriber, we will jump into the interview with Marie now. And for anyone else, we are going to go through a few announcements. First up, if you're not familiar with the premium subscription, it's a way to skip these announcements up front, but don't worry, you still get important dates of upcoming events in the outro. To sign up for the premium subscription, go over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, scroll down the homepage, and you can sign up there for only $4 a month.
And then if you scroll all the way back up to the top of the page, there's a banner there that talks about one of those important dates that Emma was talking about. That is February 21st, our next virtual speed friending. You can click there to sign up. These are events that we host every month. We bring you and people from around the world into Zoom. We put you into small breakout rooms and ask you a question to get the conversation started. You talk about that question for a few minutes, then we scramble the rooms, ask a new question, and we do this over and over for about 2 hours, and we'd love to have you join us. Again, you can sign up at the top of our website or under the events tab. That date, again, February 21st.
And if you're listening to this and it's after February 21st, don't worry. You can still sign up for our next virtual speed friending. Just go over to our website, find out the next date of the upcoming one, and sign up there. Next up, if you're looking to hang out with like-minded people more than once a month at our virtual speed friending events, we would highly encourage you to go over and check out the community tab of our website at normalizingnonmonogamy.com. There you will find out all of the information about our virtual community full of over 300 people from around the world who come together every day on an app called Mighty Networks to socialize and support one another. We also have monthly workshops and community calls. To find out more, as I said, go over to the community tab of our website. All of the information is there, and you can sign up for only $5 a month.
Next up, a quick reminder about our favorite way to get tested for STIs. If you're out in the world meeting people, hooking up, having a good time, we highly, highly, highly recommend you get tested regularly. MNI's favorite way to get tested is a service called stdcheck.com. And when you use the links on our website under the resources tab or in your podcast player show notes, you save $10, which brings the cost of a 10-panel test down to only $129. And this also helps support the show financially. So thank you for doing that. And thank you to everybody who has done that in the past. Again, this is the service Em and I have used for years. We love it, or we would not be telling you about it. So please check it out. We think you'll love it too.
Also, a reminder to reach out to us, send us a voicemail, send us an email if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast. We would love to have you. Or if you have any feedback for us or questions, please reach out to us. You can find all of that on the Contact Us tab.
Yep. And you don't have to be a content creator or an educator or anything. You just have to be you. We love telling everybody's story and giving you the space to do that. So please reach out.
And with that, let's go and talk with Marie.
Well, good evening, Marie. We're super excited to chat today. Well, it's your evening in Denmark and it's our morning here in San Francisco. So good morning/good evening. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to chat a bit and get to know you today. So for us who really don't know much about you, and for the listeners who I also don't think know much about you, would you mind introducing yourself?
Of course. Well, as you said, I'm from Denmark. Therefore, I have this beautiful Danish accent. And besides that, I am 40 and I have been working as a teacher. I'm educated as a teacher for the past many, many years. But then the last few years, I've been working more on this as a therapist and doing workshops and lectures and more on that side. So that's more on the educational way. Besides that, I live polyamorously, and we'll probably get into that. I have 2 partners, as it looks now. And that's crazy and busy and all of the things that is in that lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would just let's dig right into that. When did non-monogamy come into your life for the first time?
Well, I have a husband, and we've been together since 2010. And in 2012, we slowly started to open up our relationships. Not relationship, but relationships. No, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And we started in the more of the swinging scene. So we started going into swinger clubs and going out in that way and opening up slowly. And in that, we started to, go to the club. The first time we were there, we were only with us. And the next time, a little bit more open, and then a little bit more open. And then at some point, we were like, okay, what happens if we're with other people alone in the same room? And then what happens if we're with other people in different rooms? And then, okay, what happens if we're dating other couples outside of the swinger club? And then, slowly opening up from that. And that has been a journey throughout many, many years. And then I think 5 years ago, we started going more into polyamory and daring to take more partners in.
Yeah. I'm curious for that initial conversation. It sounds like about 2 years into your marriage. How did the topic come up to start going to swinging events?
We watched a lot of porn together. And in that, started to talk about how could this happen? What's interesting here? And then we talked a lot about it could be interesting adding more people in and doing that. And then one day, my husband was visiting me. We were living in 2 different places in Denmark, and he was visiting. And then we were talking about this again. And I'm a little bit of a person that acts a lot, so I was like, okay, let's go. We're going to check out where's the nearest club, and then we're going to go there. And we did that and had an interesting evening. We were a little bit shocked, both of us, and came home and were like, okay, this is a little bit crazy. We'll just look at it and think about, do we want to go back? And then we went to another club, and that was a little bit more, what can you say? The first one we went to where we didn't prepare a lot. So it was a little bit of a more dark place. So we went to a more wellness swinger club the second time, and that helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you have any, I guess, growing up, or did either of you have any background as far as exposure to alternative relationships? Or did you just kind of stumble into this like by watching porn together and starting having conversations?
I think we stumbled upon it mostly, but then afterwards, I've had talks with my mom actually. And growing up, my mom and my dad and my stepdad were living in the same house because they wanted us children to grow up in the same place. So, but they were living in different places in the house, so it was not the same household. It was different households. So I've been growing up, having the idea that it didn't have to be completely in the norm-based way only. So I've had that a little bit in the back of my mind. So trying that out was interesting when we started, but it was new to both of us. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really amazing situation for your parents to create. I mean, to do something like that, right? I think it's very rare that you would hear, yeah, we've gotten a divorce, one of us got remarried, and now we're all going to live together. Did it feel radical to you as you were growing up, or was it just sort of your normal day-to-day life?
It was when I was 12. So they split up and started and moved in together with my stepdad. And what I really liked about it was that they talked a lot about that they didn't want to have us children move from house to house every second week, and somehow taking themselves out of the equation. And I know it hasn't been easy on them. I've talked to them about this afterwards. It wasn't easy for them to do, but I still think it's very strong as parents to do that and to create that space for their children that we were able to go to our dad when we wanted to and go forth and back in that way.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm curious, as you and your husband started going to the clubs, maybe those initial few times that you went and started sort of learning more about it, what did you see for yourselves in your relationship? Were there things that you were seeing changing that were like sort of driving you to keep coming back? Like what kept you going back to the clubs after that first one was so kind of wild and crazy?
I think we're both quite curious creatures. So we were like, we need to see what this can do. And I actually now I'm a therapist and I have clients in sexuality and relationships, and I hear a lot of people who go in the first time and then they get scared. A lot of people get a little bit scared when they go to a swinger club the first time. And a lot of people are like, okay, then it's not for me. And I think that's a little bit of a shame, because there's so many different clubs out there and they can do different things. And often it's not about the club, it's about the evening and the people there. Are they like hitting the mark for you that evening or not? So I'm really happy that we spend a lot of time trying to go back and being curious. And then the second time we went, it was much better. And yeah. But I think when you say what we got out of it, I think very, very quickly, and I've heard that a lot also in your podcast, that people talk about this, that very, very fast you go into learning communication and you start having conversations that are honest and open and hard and amazing and all of this. And those conversations are really so giving that I think we could see a big potential there quite fast. And therefore we very much went for it and kept going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such an amazing like part of this all, right? That you're like, well, amazing and also really, really difficult. Like it makes it hard.
You will learn communication.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Yeah. I'm curious too if you it sounds like at the beginning and throughout this whole thing, but especially at the beginning, you two had a pretty methodical approach as far as jumping in from, you push to go, but then kind of methodical approach of like step by step by step and like, let's try again, let's do this. And I'm curious, like, do you remember any mistakes that you made at that point that you were like, I would probably do that differently now?
Oh, if I remember, I don't know if I can say a specific one, but I remember we had many mistakes. Oh my God. so many communication wise. If I can be concrete in that, I think when communication, like I think often when we talk about ethical non-monogamy in these ways, we tend to have a focus on all the things we learn that we are good at. And I just want to say we fuck up. We did back then, and we still do. Like we practice communication and we get better and better, but it's so tough and it's so difficult and it keeps being that. So it's just really so I remember many times we fucked up communication, and one of our issues were that, and I also experienced this in many couples that I work with, that there's one running very fast and the other one staying like, not so fast, please.
Yep.
Yeah, different speeds. Yeah.
That dynamic was also in us, and we had, what can you say? Today, I think that I was the one going slower, and today I think I should have been better at setting up my boundaries more than I did back then. I was we did too much too fast, and that hurt a little bit. I've also, one of my biggest things in working with this is jealousy. That's also one of the things I work the most with today is jealousy, and I've been really struggling a lot with jealousy. And I think one of the reasons were that we just went too far, and I had an idea that I just want to be good at this, and then I just went very, very fast. Yeah.
Yeah, and all that pressure comes in to say, well, I should be better at this. This shouldn't be that hard. It should be easy. It shouldn't bother me that you're out with somebody. Or that's all of those creep in very easily when you're hurting and you're struggling and you just wish it felt better. Because I imagine too, on your side, when you're going and doing a lot of those things, it feels amazing and it's fun. And you're like, on one hand, it's great. And on the other, it's a struggle.
Yeah. And I also, I have an idea now for many years. Now, we started so many years back. And at that time, we knew almost nobody who was living like we were in our circles. And now today it's becoming more and more popular. And that's really amazing, because people need other people to mirror themselves in. We had a really hard time finding people to mirror ourselves in, and heard all the podcasts that we could, and we read the books that we could, and but still there was not a lot of community around it. So sometimes we were really missing other people, and also we were the only ones who did this non-monogamy in our friend circles and all of this. So we also became the couple who knew how to do this, and that somehow twisted my head a little bit, because I got this idea that, then I should be perfect at it because I was the example of people doing it.
Yeah.
And that I really have spent a lot of time turning over and saying like, no, actually being good at non-monogamy is not being perfect. It's making all the mistakes. It's accepting you make the mistakes, saying, I'm sorry. It's working with the jealousy that is there. It's, all of this that is being good at monogamy, not having the hard feelings, not feeling jealous.
Yeah, just because, it doesn't make you good at non-monogamy just to be like perfect at it, like you said, and never have any issues, never have any feelings. Like that's not realistic, because that's not being human. And so you got to go through all of those things, and because it's part of the relationship experience of like just being human, whether you're monogamous or non-monogamous. But I would say some of those struggles are highlighted in non-monogamous dynamics.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh yes, they are. We have a Danish woman who is the leading in ethical non-monogamy, and she says that ethical non-monogamy is extreme sport for the feelings.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I think too, right? It's not I think I loved what you said too about it's not that it just, I mean, sometimes things get easier for sure, but it's not like you just never feel jealous or you never struggle. It's about how do we navigate when we are struggling? How do we navigate when I've hurt my partner, when my partner's hurt me? what are the tools that we can use? And so it's not just avoiding every mistake, it's learning from them and then figuring out how those can make us closer as a team rather than pull us apart.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I've really thought a lot about is for me at least, living like this is also a way of daring and learning to stand in the uncomfortable. And we're not that good at standing the uncomfortable. Many people are not. When they go out there, they feel insecure and they just want to go back into safety. And there's something about daring to go out there and stand there and be, and it hurts in the stomach and it's a little bit painful and it's scary and all of this, but that's a part of it, and that's actually very beautiful if you dare to learn to stand in that uncomfortable place.
Yeah. Was jealousy for you sort of one of those most uncomfortable places that you had to, I think we all have different things that we struggle with. And I'm curious for you, what was sort of the like most uncomfortable that you had to kind of sit in, and how did you kind of work through that so you could keep coming back and doing this for yourself?
I'm also kind of curious where that first, or kind of when if you remember when that first popped up for you, kind of that feeling.
The jealousy, that was really fast and really early on. As I said, we had this different pace. And I think my husband were a little bit more like, now I can just go and be crazy. And he just wanted that. And I completely understood that. But I was also like, take me with you. Don't leave me hanging back here. So that was really fast. And the not so pretty place in my jealousy is that I distance myself when I get jealous. So my jealousy is very, I protect myself from like pushing him away and actually doing the opposite of what I really want. I really want to be close to him, to have him close. And what I'm doing is pushing him away. So I think that's my jealousy. And I had it really early on, and we've been working a lot with it. But as we also have, now I'm showing things with my hands, but I'm showing that kind of like making us a separation. So as we are growing more and more apart, like at the beginning it was us as a couple, and now we're polyamorous. So we're not splitting up, but we're going more and more in different directions, still together and still strong together, but transformed in a way. And that have been a scary journey to have gone from very, very close, very two people going into this together, now standing more on my own. But I think for me, on that journey, jealousy has been my best friend, actually. It's been the thing that's made me be able to stand so much on my own now. And I think 5, 6, 7, I don't remember actually, 7, 8 maybe years ago, I noticed that my jealousy was really tearing on us in our couple, in our relationship. And that made me realize, okay, if I don't do something about this, if I don't start working with jealousy, then it will ruin us and my relationship. So I really went deep into working with jealousy. And I read books and I listened to podcasts and I started doing self-development work and that has really helped me a lot to do and to, what can you say, to notice a lot of things about myself that I can change and grow in. So I think for me today, I wouldn't be without my jealousy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that, Marie. And I find it really fascinating. You had said that you were sort of the doer, the person who was like, hey, we've watched all this porn, we've talked about it, like we're going to the club. And then at the same time, you balance that with it's also hard. And I think I wanted to point that out, that both can exist at the same time. You can be the person who's like, I want to go, I want to do, and oh shit, this is really hard. And that I think that balancing both of those is a really powerful thing to be able to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think, as you said before, that I can also see the benefits that I get from living like this. even though I get jealous of my partner, I can still see what I'm getting. Like, I just being able to go out in the world and meet people and
Mhm.
meet new people, and having to, or being able to define the relationship that I can have with them. That's, oh my God, I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to have those experiences. I'm curious too. So, you kind of had this period of several years of going in the swinging world and more, I guess, sounds like casual experiences in a way. And what was the, I guess, kind of draw to continue to evolve that over time? Like, you kind of, you kind of decided that you were going to go to separate rooms and then separate experiences, and then even eventually into polyamory. And I'm just kind of curious, kind of what was the draw for that?
Yeah, and that's an interesting question. And actually, one we do lectures and things. My husband and I also together here in Denmark. And when we are out, we actually have a very big point on this, because one of the things I really like that we did, we've also done a lot of mistakes, but one of the things I really liked that we did was that we've never had a plan. I experience a lot of my clients having a plan when they come in. We want to go here. We want to be this. We want this kind of relationship. And we never had that plan. So we went into, okay, let's go to a swinger club. What happens when we do that? And okay, what happens if we try this? Okay, what happens if we try this? And then slowly that has developed into trying out or ending up in polyamory. But we never had a plan, and I actually really like that. So it's been all on curiosity, and let's try out things and see what happens when we do. And we've talked a lot about actually this idea of when you've opened a door, is it then possible to close it again?
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, it's not possible to close it again. And I'm also actually in doubt, because we've never really opened the door and then they closed it again. But we talked a lot about it, not at that it should be an option, but we've never really done it. So I don't know, but I like the idea of talking about. It's easier to open a door and dare to go out and say, okay, what happens if we open this door? If we can close it again, if it's too dangerous or if it's too soon. Yeah.
But it sounds like for you two, have you talked about that is a thing that you could close the door, or you just bring up the topic as like, hey, this is a thing we should be aware of, that closing this door could be really hard. Do you tend to do that before you step through each one of the, I guess, metaphorical doors you walk through?
At least in the beginning, we talked a lot about that we should be able to close them again. We never did,
Mm-hmm.
but we talked about that it should be a possibility. And now I think we are at a stage in polyamory, it becomes harder to close doors because
Yeah.
there are more people involved. So
Yeah.
if I close the door, I will, close the door on one partner and then choose that doesn't make sense for me. So when you at least for us, when we've opened this door, it would require a lot for us to close it again.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I'd love to talk to Marie. You mentioned that one of the big shifts that you two have gone through is from we're sort of a single unit of two people
Yeah.
to we're two individuals who are together through this. And that sort of that really is a huge shift to make, sort of to interdependence that it's, I think I see it sometimes as the difference between like, hey, do you want to go on a date tonight together versus like, hey, I'm planning to go on a date this week. How do I mesh that with your schedule? Or are there things I need to know about, right? Like the conversations are different. The whole approach is different. And I'm curious what that transition looked like for the two of you, because that's a big one when you've been married for years.
Yes, and it was also difficult and still is difficult because being in different having patterns, like we've made patterns from we started being together, and some of them are really positive and some of them are not, but they are all there.
Yep.
So yeah, it's been over many, many, many years this process have been made, and it's still really tough sometimes, because when we've been so much symbiosis, I often call it, when we've been so much in a symbiosis, like dragging yourself out of that can be so difficult because it feels like you're losing a part of yourself. So that has been tough on us. Yeah. And I still think that we're struggling a little bit with it because of these patterns that has been created that we are working with and trying to come out of and change.
Yeah, one of the things that we talk about often on the show is anytime your relationship shifts like this, you have to grieve the one that you no longer have. And I think that even if it was beautiful and even if there was amazing stuff and you're now in a new relationship in many ways, right? When you've gone from we're closed to we're open, sort of the closed relationship is no more, and there is grief that goes with that. And I know this is a thing Emma and I we've been figuring out how to sort of navigate together.
We don't have it necessarily figured out.
This is something we figured out. It was super easy, and I wish you all would figure it out too. No, it's just,
but it's a process.
It's a process, and it comes in waves. I think for us of like, oh, that's no longer the Finn and Emma that we used to be. This is who we are, and that means our relationship is different. But I still loved the one we had, but I'm excited about the one that we have.
Yeah, and I think you're completely right in that there's a lot of grief there that also needs to be processed, and because there's also some beauty in the symbiosis that I've lost at least, and that's sometimes really hard to process.
Yeah,
but I think one of the things we've talked a lot about that we're still trying to work out, we haven't found the perfect way in doing this, is also how much do you keep following each other? Like when you've been in a symbiosis, like we have, then you meet new people and you also start getting more of your own life, but still being together. When we were in a symbiosis, we knew each other's thoughts every day. We knew everything that was happening. And now we have different partners also, and maybe not sharing everything that's happening. That also means that we're growing a little bit apart. And how much can you grow apart before you are completely away from each other? I think that's one of the big challenges when we've at least been going into polyamory. How much do we need to do to keep a relationship?
Yeah.
And we've also burned ourselves on this and spent too much time apart and too much time on other people and not sharing. Like, it's also a matter of sharing. What are you doing when you're with other people so that you can follow each other's lives and thoughts and what's happening as a basis?
Yeah. I'm glad you touched on this. Go for it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to say sometimes we haven't done that enough.
Yeah.
So one of my biggest learnings for the past few years has been time. Relationship requires time together. And it doesn't have to be face to face. It can also be writing or calling, but you need to have the other person with you if you want to keep them in your life in one way or another.
Yeah, which really touches on the question I was going to ask, was like, how do the two of you and how have the two of you kind of worked to maintain your relationship throughout opening it, like throughout having these relationships with other people? Because like you said, it requires time and intention.
Yeah. We've been dating a lot. We're 40, but both of us has decided not to have children. So that's also what can you say, that makes it so that our days are very wild and free. We can do whatever we want. But that again, that also puts a pressure on, okay, but then we need to structure ourselves. We need to prioritize each other because we don't have these things that binds us together. So we've been dating a lot. We have some things that is our things, that we have a van, for example, and we go on adventures with the van and trying to keep having vacations together. And but honestly, also again in the name of perfectly honesty and being vulnerable in all of this, it's also been difficult, and is difficult because it's not a thing you do once. We have to keep doing that. We have to keep prioritizing each other. even when it's tough and difficult and it's more fun out with someone else. That's still, we still have to do that, and it keeps being that. And I am actually really happy that that's the case, because I love spending time with my husband. So
right.
Yeah, you still want to be together. You're still enjoying that relationship. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think, right, it's the idea that you can go out and do an activity and be like, well, we've achieved relationship security, so now we don't have to do that anymore. It just will be that way. And it's, like you said, it's a constant, it's sort of like a gas tank that runs low if you're not putting in the energy, you're not putting in the time. And also, I think I will say for us, what constitutes quality time and something that rebuilds us is very different today than it was a year ago, and is different than it was 5 years ago. And so we're constantly now learning, how do we reconnect? How do we stay connected? And I think this is even more present as we become more of our individual selves, not so much a one-to-one, like a one person unit made of two bodies. Because yeah, like you said, we used to know each other's everything. Oh, I like this thing, Emma likes this thing, we'll just do this thing together. And now as we've become more individuated, we're like, okay, you like that thing, I've never heard of that thing, so now I need to like learn about it, and I get to learn about you, and we're like teaching each other new things. And it's just a totally different relationship in many ways.
yeah, and that's also really beautiful. But you also, as you say, you really have to be curious. Like, who are you now?
Yeah.
What's up with you now? So there's also it demands a lot from you, because you can be like, we've been together since 2012, no 10. What is that? 15, almost 15 years. And sometimes you can think, I know this person completely, but we don't. And we have to keep being curious and practice that. And that can sometimes be really difficult.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah, because we all change as we grow and live life, right? So you do have to maintain that curiosity for yourself too.
Yeah.
I think that's another piece of like, wait, who am I right now? What do I want right now? And not assuming that stays the same.
It's easy to get lost in a relationship, right? Oh, well, my partner likes this thing, I must too, right? And is that really something you like and want to do? Versus, oh, you go and do that amazing thing, I'm going to go do my amazing thing, and I'll see you tomorrow, right? But that's a really scary place to be sometimes, if all you know is we just do everything together.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious how you two have, or maybe where you two have landed today in terms of like how you sort of practice polyamory and non-monogamy, and maybe how it differs a little bit from your husband, without telling his story for him, but just if you're seeing sort of differences in how you approach and navigate non-monogamy.
A lot. I am for sure one that needs more safety. So I have another partner that is much of I call him a partner, but he's in the more norm-based thinking, I would call him a boyfriend. But I don't use that word that much. But that's the status.
We can still think it though, even though we don't. We can still think it.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes I have this idea when I tell the world that it's not in this whole ethical non-monogamy. When I talk to people about how I live, and I have this way of explaining it, that if I talk to them, I would say boyfriend. If I talk to people who are ethical non-monogamy, I would say partner. And then if I talk to people who know me and him, I would maybe explain more what he is to me. So there's like a 3-step talk of what this partner is for me.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I've been needing more of that, a secure relationship and close relationship, and whereas my husband is not in the need of necessarily partners in that way. So he does his own thing. Not less committed, but in a different way.
Yeah. You two, it sounds like, have had to figure out how to support one another, and also doing it differently, having different needs with other relationships, right? And how, I guess, do you have, for people out there who are listening, are like, Okay, that sounds great in theory. How do we actually do that? Do you have any suggestions?
Oh, it's so hard because I can imagine I do that a lot. We often tend to give other people what we wish for ourselves. So I wish for a lot of connection, and that I feel that we're connected every day, and my husband doesn't. So I tend to think that he needs what I need. So I think for us, it's been the first thing has been to understand that what is it that he actually needs
Yeah.
in order to feel connected, and how do I need to feel connected, and when we're not apart, how do we feel connected in that, and how do we work with different needs just in that, because when sometimes we're apart from each other for a week, 2 weeks, and finding out how do we take care of each other in that process and not completely split up, how do we keep the connection in a way. That's hard, and that we haven't also not yet landed on that. We're working on that. Or maybe I'm going on a tangent, from your question.
Oh, that's okay.
No, we love tangents here on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'd love maybe, Marie, just to kind of understand what, like on the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, what does your relationship ecosystem look like? Like, you spend time with your husband, you have another partner, you said you've been going on lots of dates, or you're dating. Like, what does sort of life look like for you two? You're also adventuring in a van, probably in the summer, I'm hoping. But also, hey, they can winterize
Also
the
in the
vans.
winter. Yeah.
Yeah, you got the winterized van.
Yes. Yeah. And in Denmark, half of the year is winter, so you have to be able to go out.
Yeah.
We're Vikings. No, I spent. I'm working on I have my own company. I don't know what that is in English. Anyways, my husband and I have
a business owner.
Yes, entrepreneur. Yeah. My husband and I have started a company actually working with this ethical non-monogamy, and been doing that for the past 2 years. But besides that, we also do sexual education for young people. So we're going from school to school in Denmark and teaching sexual education. We think that the education that is there is not so good. So we are trying to give good sexual education out there. But that means we go with the van and travel around from school to school and doing that. And then doing therapy on the sides and lectures. So that's more of the work base. But that also means, the reason I'm telling this is it says something about the everyday life. We're not that much at home.
Yeah.
We're often on the road, either with the van, teaching, doing therapy in the van as well. So it's very much on the road. And then on top of that, I spent maybe 1 week per month together with my other partner. He's living in another place in Denmark. So I have to go there and stay there for a few days in Copenhagen, actually. We live in another part of Denmark. Yeah. So my everyday life is it's actually a little bit of a mess.
A little chaotic.
Yes, it's very chaotic and very going. It's no days are the same, no weeks are the same.
Yep.
It's very, very busy in that way. But then also to say, with everyday life and living polyamorous, I like my other partner. We've been together for almost 4 years, and before I met him, I thought, having two partners, I have a lot of love. Of course, I can give out that. And what I didn't take into account there was time issue. So having two partners, for me at least, full-time partnerships, that is the most crazy thing I've ever done in terms of coordinating lives, structuring schedules, all of this. It's madness sometimes, and trying to figure everything into the calendar and structure, and yeah.
Yep.
So time for dating, not so much.
Yeah. I love this. I would definitely want to talk about your business in a minute, but I'm curious because we have done snippets of living in a van. We've lived in a van for multiple weeks at a time, various points in our relationship, and
that's a different level of.
There is no privacy in van life, and I'm curious. How do you two maintain, grow, and sort of explore different connections when you're living in 100 square feet or less, probably 50 square feet?
Oh, square feet. What is that in meters? Do you know?
Yeah.
No,
Anyways,
nobody
it's a
knows.
van.
Nobody knows, Marie.
Well, why
No.
do we have to do it
Why?
different?
No, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, a very small space. That's the
Yes, a very
international
small space.
term.
It's just a van. Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you live in a van, it's mm, well, we also have our base. Like we have our house. It's only 24 square meters. Now I don't know what that is in feet, but it's small. One room. So we have that as our base, and then we have the van to go out and do
Mhm.
do classes and workshops and stuff like that. Yeah, but how do you? What was the question? How do you get to privacy and peace?
How do you not drive each other completely nuts
Yeah,
trying to maintain other partnerships in a very small space?
well, the other partners, we often meet them at their places.
Yeah, smart.
Yeah. So it's very rare that we have people in the van or in our house because it's just so small. And
Yeah.
one of not our rules, but one of our ways, and that's one of the things that's very important to me, is that I like my home to be home. So that I like when I come home, I can always feel at home.
Mhm.
So that means if there's a dishes from the date last night, or if there's not clean sheets or something, that bothers me a little bit. So I kind of like always to be able to feel at home. And when you're in a van or when you're in a very small house, I don't know if that can become more difficult, but at least it can become, yeah, a little. It can become a little bit difficult to
Yeah.
make sure that because it's so small, and when I come home, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything is very obvious, right? If the dishes aren't done, the bed's not made, right, and you have a very small space. I think too, like, as you were talking, I was thinking about the amount that goes into living in a van, right? It's you drive somewhere, you have to find the right place, you have to set everything up, everything. It's like there's a very meticulous way when you're living in that small of a space.
Yes.
And like that takes a lot of time and energy that you two I maybe the thought here is intentional, like quality time versus incidental time. And I feel like in a van, there's so much time of we're just living life versus like we're actually taking this time to sit down and play a game or connect. And I'm curious how you two have found ways to do that, because it was definitely a thing we struggled with. By the time you get everything set up and taken down, you're like, okay, I'm going to bed. I'll see you in the morning. Like it's
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That is true. And then I don't know if we found ways to connect in that way, but that's also for us. I think also it's a part of the adventure.
yeah.
To and now we've had it for quite some time, the van. So we also have some very specific ways we are setting it up and taking it down, and different.
Yeah.
You're doing this, I'm doing that. So it also becomes. It feels like a machine that's running.
Mhm.
When we're in that, we know, and that actually somehow also creates connection,
Mhm.
because it feels like we're on the same page, and so it's not necessarily work and not relaxing time. It's a lot of, we're doing this as a kind of a machine that's functioning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the thing that Emma and I we would have conversations about this at times where it was sort of like this is maybe uncomfortable or it's crazy, but like this is what we're choosing to do right now. And it is just sort of part of the adventure. That means there isn't a lot of privacy, or you're doing things in kind of a weird, quirky way. But that is like, that's the connection. We're doing this. We're connected by this experience we're having.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And at the same time, I don't know, but we've talked a lot about the thing with when you travel in general, you always need to find food and shelter and a way to get where you need to go. When you have a van, you have all three with you. So that's also the benefit of it. That you don't have to
Yeah.
take, like, which hotel should we go to? Where do we want to go and eat? Like, you just have it with you. And that's also maybe also takes a little bit of time away from planning other things and just being
Yeah.
present in running the machine.
Yeah, the logistics are easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it turns into just, it becomes a dance, right? And I know this, like, even in a couple of weeks of living together in a van, you get the dance down. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you like put it in park, and both people are just like doing things that then come together at the end. And it's amazing that it just how fluid it can become.
Yeah, it can be really, but again, it's also a big part of this symbiosis that you can create. Living in a van is very symbiotic.
Yeah. That can also be applied to living anywhere together, but it's just like
it's forced.
It's forced, yeah, yeah. But I think the real, like, when your living situation shifts, if it ever does in different ways, like, well, if it ever does, usually it does for people. Like, you can take some of those learnings of like, where did we find a groove here, living here, and how do I apply that in this new situation? And just like, yeah, there's so many different lessons learned, I guess, that you can find that symbiosis together and apply it in different situations. And when that works, it's beautiful.
Yes. And I'm actually pretty curious because we are doing something crazy over the winter here. We're going to live in a houseboat for 6 months. So I'm really curious how we're gonna make that happen with our, I like that you called it dance. I actually like that better than machine. But but how we put this dance into a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be a new challenge.
Yeah, I love it. I had the thought that, we talked about it earlier, right? That, non-monogamy often pulls away the sort of the carpet or the rug that we can stuff all our problems under. And it really makes us like face communication, face all these things. And then I feel like living in a small space, whether it's a tiny home or a van or camping, kind of does that same thing. And I feel like when you start stacking them, you're like, okay, we're going to be non-monogamous in a van with no private, like, it's just like hard mode, like turned up to expert mode. So I give you both a ton of credit for functioning on the day to day, because it's a lot. So I think it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It's a journey, but I don't think we've talked a lot about a few times that we have never done things in the easy way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wish that we could just do things easy, but at the same time, we're also learning so much from this challenging way of doing things.
And you'll learn a whole bunch more by living in a houseboat together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of doing things the easy way, you're building a business as well, which we can attest is not the easy way. Tell us a little bit about the business. How did you start in it, and what does it look like, and how can people find you?
Yeah, we'd love to hear more.
So we are sexologists, both of us, and I call myself a relationship and jealousy coach on the side. And as I said before, we're working in two ways in our business. So one of them is this whole sexual education, because we're both teachers. And we have been working at schools with young adults for many, many, many years, working with many other different subjects. But both of us started to work on sexual education a few years into the work, and then we got so caught up in sexual education because it's just so important, and we can feel and hear and see the young people just catching that there are two grown-ups who are actually daring to stand with them in this world and helping them. So it makes a lot of sense, and we felt like, okay, we need to take this into the world. We can actually do something here. So therefore the sexual education became a thing, driving around Denmark doing that. And then on the side, the other part that we do with our business is that when we started this, as I said earlier, it's many, many years back, we were completely lost and we had nowhere to turn to. And today there are places like your podcast and other places to turn and get inspiration and get help. So we wanted to try to make that and create a space where we help other people, and we do that by therapy sessions, but also working with couples trying to navigate in this We do that a lot by making lectures and workshops, where we go out and do workshops on many different things in this. And we've been doing that for many, many years now. And then at some point we were like, okay, now we've been doing this a lot. Maybe we can actually start a business in this and both get some money on it, but also just get it more out there and help more people, because we have from our experiences and our education, we have so much that we want to share around this with other people. And then maybe I can add to this, because this is a thing that we started almost 2 years ago, creating the business. But then the last year, I've been working with another friend, making a website called OpenWise. That is an idea to create a platform both for courses and community around ethical non-monogamy. So what I think it's different about that is the courses that we try to build almost like masterclasses in ethical non-monogamy. Right now we have one on jealousy that's long and it's video based, and trying to take people into this world and help them navigate ethical non-monogamy in a better way. And then there's the community side that I hear more and more are happening around the world, and we just need more places where people can go and get help from each other and get help from people that have experience in this. So that's OpenWise is a little bit trying to build bridges in both the knowledge but also the community around ethical non-monogamy.
Amazing. I love that. And that's anybody who's listened to our show knows how much we love community, and anybody who's building community and creating spaces for that, I just can't get enough of it. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Mary.
And then on top of it, you also do relationship coaching on the side of everything else. It sounds like you just have a lot of things. You're building a lot of things and doing a lot of work right now. It's amazing.
Yes, I'm also a busy one.
Yes.
Yeah, right. I see why you don't have a ton of time to go on dates. That makes sense.
Exactly.
I'm curious just on the education side, just for a moment, because if I feel like if we got into a van here in the U.S. and drove around to schools to try to teach better sex education, that would not go very well. And I'm just curious, in Denmark, how are you able to do that? Do you contract in with schools, and are they open to having you come in, or do you have to do it sort of extra on the side and kids have to come after school hours to do this?
Well, I actually think in Denmark, and I also think this happened in the US, but I think it's a little bit different. But there's more focus on creating good sexual education for young people. Often, I think the schools are, creating a space where they are only doing it in the school and not having people coming from the outside, and then they have the teachers making the education, and so that is often a little bit of a challenge, at least in Denmark. Because the teachers are not really prepared for it, and they're not. They don't know this subject is so important, and the teaching the young people this in a good way is just so important. And I think we are not doing that well enough. I actually heard a podcast yesterday with Dan Savage, and he said, from his experience, they were talking about the young people are not having enough sex, and then he goes like, well, one of the things is that the sexual education has such a big focus on take care. He didn't say this. This is my paraphrasing, but he said that it has so much focus on taking care and setting boundaries, and it's forgetting to teach people to approach each other and to actually have the conversation that is two-way conversation. So. And we've said this for a long time. We need to have better sexual education that is not only focusing on teaching us how to set our boundaries. That's also important, but we need more. We need people to work on. For me, good sexual education has a focus on creating pleasure and more pleasure. And then there's a lot of framework. There's a lot of practical things. There's a lot of things that needs to happen in order for us to get there. But if the focus is only on the things we need to do to get there, which is take care, be mindful, take care of yourself, then, as Dan Savage said, we create a minefield and we don't dare approach each other. So somehow removing that minefield, removing the minds by making young people talk more to each other, daring to say things out loud, daring to, go into negotiations. All of this is what we need to focus on if we are to make good sexual education, I think. And I think in Denmark, there's a little bit more focus on this. So getting back to your question, that first of all, the schools that we go to, half public, half private. So they also have a little bit more finances in order to get people like us there. So the public schools are not, their funding is not big enough in order for us to get us there, to pay for us. So the ones we go to are more private, public, but hopefully in the long run, it will be more public schools that can actually also afford people like us. And at the moment, we are out there and we're contacting schools and trying to sell our product. But hopefully, at some point, we'll be more, people will contact us more.
I hope so.
I love that. I love that you said that they're talking about just that sex education doesn't necessarily just need to be on the mechanics or the things to avoid, but also how do we access pleasure for ourselves? What does that even mean? How do we even learn what that is for us? Because it's different for Emma, for me, for you, everybody, it shows up different. And so, the tools, right, the boundaries and the conversations they're there to help us navigate the minds. But if all you see is a minefield, it's scary to go into it. And it's really hard to have those conversations.
Well put.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just very grateful for the work you're doing, Marie, and your husband as well.
Yes. Me too. I appreciate everything that you shared as well. And I'm curious too. I know that kind of the next steps, it sounds like, are going to live in a houseboat. But where do you see you moving into the future?
Well, I actually lived the life that I want.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less busy would be nice. But I love what I'm doing basically, and I love I don't want to lose any of my partners, so I guess they would be in my future as well. So hopefully that will be like that. And work-wise, I wish I could do more therapy. I would actually love that. Also online therapy, I've started to do that for the past 2 years as well. And that makes a lot of sense for me to be able to both take my work with me when I travel around, so that I can, be more free in moving around. So that would be a future. I want my life as it is now, just with more of some of the things, and maybe 4 hours more in every day.
Right.
Yep. Easy to do. No problem.
Yeah.
Well, what an amazing place to be, right? Where the answer to what do you want in the future is just more of what I have right now, right? That's I feel like that's the mark of doing something right, or at least one thing, if not many things. So very grateful for you coming on today, reaching out to us, sharing your story is a beautiful story, and for the work you do as well. So thank you, Marie, and excited to get the word out there. The links, just for anybody listening, the links to everything Marie shared, you will be able to find in the show notes, so you don't have to go digging.
Is there anything else, Marie, that you'd like to get out there today?
No, or maybe I wanted to say that to everyone listening, that I hope your journey in ethical non-monogamy is amazing, and I hope that you get a lot of good insights also from the tough and rough times. They are there for a reason, and they are uncomfortable, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well said.
Yes. It's okay to be uncomfortable sometimes. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you again, Marie, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day.
We will. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful one. So.
And we're back. Thank you so much, Marie, for sharing everything today. It was a delight to talk with you, and we're excited to get this episode out there.
Yeah, echoing from my side, thank you for coming on and for all the incredible work that you and your husband are doing. Thank you.
A quick reminder to go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, go to the events tab, and sign up for our next virtual speed friending event. It is going to be on February 21st, 2025. And if you missed this one, don't worry, go sign up for the next upcoming one. There will be more scheduled.
Yep, every month.
And next week, we have an interview with Ashley and Mark coming at you. So stay tuned and come back and listen.
And with that, we will see you all in a week.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.